All right, today we're talking about lesson 97 that deals with the mean, median, range, and mode. Now, yesterday in lesson 96, we talked about what an average means. Okay, if you need a little refresher on what an average is, go on back to that lesson. Today, though, we see the word mean, M-E-A-N. Okay, now that's just another name for an average. So if you hear someone asking for what the average is or what the mean is, you know that you're actually just going to be computing the same thing. So, for example, the first example in your book, which is on page 613, it says find the mean of Ian's 7 game scores. Now, they give us the game scores, 80, 85, 85, 10, 90, 90, and 85. So, if we know that the mean is just another name for average, let's go ahead and do those 2 steps that I taught you yesterday. You're first going to add up. So first we need to add. So I'm going to take all of these numbers and I'm going to need some room for that. So bear with me here. 80, 85, 85, 10, 90, 90, and 85. Now, if you have a hard time adding all of these numbers up at once, go ahead and take them step by step. Just add 2 together first, then another 2, and just keep doing that until you find your total. But be careful because you are adding 7 numbers here, so take your time. I'm going to go through on the ones place, and I have 5, 10, 0, 0, 0, 15. Carry the 1. All right, now here I'm going to count up my 8s actually, and I'm going to cross them off as I count them. So I've got 1, 8, 2, 3, 4. Now 4 8s is 32. And then I'm just going to go through at that 32, 33, 34. Now plus 9 would be 43. Plus another 9 would be 52. Okay, so my total right now is 525. Now, I need to divide that by however many scores there were. So, in this case, we had 7 scores, so I need to split 525 into 7 equally. So the next step is divide. Okay, so this number, I'm going to come over here so I have more room. I'm splitting this number, this total, into 7. 7 doesn't go into 5, but it does go into 52. 7 goes into 52 7 times. 7 times 7 is 49. When you subtract these, you'll get 3. Excuse me. Then bring down the 5. So our new number is 35. 7 fits into 35 exactly 5 times. 5 times 7 is 35. Subtract and get 0. Nothing else to bring down, so we're done. So that means that the average score, or the mean, which is the same thing as average, is 75. Now, if I look back at my scores, I'm going to make sure that 75 seems reasonable. Okay, I've got 80, which seems close. 85, 85. 10. No, that's not close at all. But 90 and 90 don't seem that close either. And 85 is pretty close. So what my guess would be, at first you would think that it would probably be in the 80s, what the average would be, or the mean. But because of this 10 right here, one of those scores that low is going to bring down that average or that mean lower. Okay, that's why our average is actually 75. Okay, the next word we need to talk about is a median. Now, median has a D in it. Now, that's important to help me remember what the definition of a median is. The median is the middle number in a set of numbers ordered in size. So When I think of median, I think of that D, because in the definition, it's the middle, and middle has a D in it. That's what helps me remember this one, okay? So, I'm going to go over this example before we talk about the if statement I made, okay? So this example says, find the median of Ian's 7 game scores. Now, these are the 7 scores that we had earlier in the last example, okay? So, by the definition of median, we need to set our numbers up in order in size. That means greatest to least or least to greatest. Whatever you want to do. I like to go least to greatest, and I cross them off as I do that. So the smallest or the least is 10. So I'm going to put that down first. Okay, the next smallest number is 80. Then I have 85, and I have 1, 2, 3 of them. Okay, and then 2 numbers left. I have 2 90s. Okay. If you ever have to go to the second line, just remember that what order you put them in, okay? So, going back to the definition of median, since that's what we're finding, it's the middle number in a set of numbers. Okay, we already ordered them in size from least to greatest. So we need to find that middle number. So what I always do is I cross off 1 on the left and 1 on the right. Or maybe you underline them in case you want to reuse the numbers, or maybe you made a mistake. So sometimes crossing off isn't the best idea. So let's just underline for now. So I'm going to underline 1 on the left and 1 on the right. Okay, they're even on both sides now. So I'm going to do the same thing again. So far I have 2 on the left and 2 on the right. I'm getting closer to the middle. I'm going to underline another 1 on the left and another 1 on the right. We have to make sure that we're underlining the same amounts on each side. So, over here, I've got 3 sets of numbers. Same with on this side, I've got 3 sets of numbers. I cannot cross off or underline another because that wouldn't be fair. This is the only number left. So, 85 is our median. It's in the exact middle. All right, this next example, we're still going to be finding the median, that middle number, but this time we have a different set of numbers here. We've got 5, 4, 3, 8, 7, and 7. The first step you need to do in finding the median is ordering them in size. So either least to greatest or greatest to least. This time I'm going to do greatest to least just because last time I did least to greatest, and I want to just show you that it doesn't matter which way you do it, okay? So I'm going to find the biggest number here, which is 8. The next biggest number would be 7, and we have 2 of them. And then the next would be 5, and then 4 and 3. Okay. I'm going to take my black marker, and I'm going to start crossing off 1 on the left and 1 on the right. So, 1 and 1, 2 and 2. Now, 3 and 3. And here's where I made a mistake. If I cross off 3 on this side and 3 on this side, there's nothing left in the middle here. Okay, so what that means is I cannot cross off these 2. Okay, that means that 7 and 5 are both in the middle. So, but we can't have 2 medians. We need to take 7 and 5 and find the average of that, okay? So to find the average of 7 and 5, I need to first add 7 and 5, which would get me 12. And then I'm going to divide by 2 since there's two numbers here. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And that does make sense because in between 7 and 5 is 6. So my median is 6, even though that wasn't one of the numbers listed. But technically, it's the exact middle of the numbers in the middle, okay? So just wanted to give you an example like this to make sure that you know what to do when a situation comes up where you have 2 in the middle, okay? So I went back to the scores of Ian's game, okay? And I went back to showing you the median of those scores. We ordered them least to greatest, okay? And we figured out that we could have 3 scores on this side and 3 scores on this side while we crossed off to figure out that this 85 was the median. Now, a new term I wanted to bring up is called an outlier. And I have the definition up here in blue. An outlier is a score or a number that's far from the other scores. So we kind of talked about this a little bit ago where I brought up that our mean or the average was 75. And I remember telling you that I thought it was a little odd because most of our numbers are in the 80s. So I would have assumed that our mean or average would have been in the 80s as well. But that wasn't the case. I remember telling you that because of this 10 over here that was so low, it was so far away from all of these other scores that it affected our mean or the average. So when you have a number like that that's so far away from the others, that's called an outlier. Okay? So 10 would be an outlier. It's nowhere near 80 or 90, okay? So if you noticed, it did affect our mean or the average, but oftentimes it's not going to affect your median, okay? Because you're still just lining them up from least to greatest or greatest to least, and you're crossing off to figure out what number is going to be in the middle, okay? Just having one of those outliers isn't going to make a big effect on your median. Now, another new term is called the range. Now, a range is the difference between the largest and smallest numbers in a set. So I'm going to use the same numbers here from Ian's game. We have 10 all the way to 90. So the range here is the difference between that smallest number and that biggest number. Now, the key word up here in this is difference. Difference, we know, means that we need to subtract. So I'm going to take our largest number, which is 90, okay, and I need to find that range. Okay, what's that difference between our smallest and biggest? Well, the smallest one is 10. So if we subtract 90 and 10, we'll get 80. Now what this means here is that from 10 to 90, there are 80 numbers between our smallest and our biggest. Okay, that's our range. Okay. Now the last term we're going to talk about today, and I know there's been a lot of them, is called the mode. The mode is the number that occurs the most. Now, median, I remember I gave you a little trick for median. Median had a D in it, so that reminded me of middle. Median, middle. Okay, now same kind of trick here too with mode. Mode goes M-O, which the definition says that mode is the number that occurs the most. Most has that M-O in it too. And they're both one syllable. So mode and most, it kind of goes together. Okay, I hope that helps you remember. So what that means for our set of numbers here, we need to find that number that we see in our list the most. So 10, I only see one of them. 80, there's only one 80. 85, there's 1, 2, 3 of those. And then for 90, there's 1, 2 of them. So 85 occurs the most. Okay, we see it showing up 3 times in here. Okay, one more example before I let you go today. What's the mode of the following set? We have 5, 5, 3, 6, 8, 7, and 7. Now, sometimes it's nice to put these in order from least to greatest or greatest to least. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. You cannot help us. Okay, so in this problem, you didn't necessarily need to do that, putting them in order, but when you get longer lists of numbers, it usually will help you. Okay, and the reason it helps you is because it'll put the numbers side by side for you so you can see quicker how many of each number you have. In this case, they already set up numbers that had more than one right next to each other, so that was helpful. Okay, so remember that the mode is what number occurs the most. So 3 and 6 only have one of each of those, so that's not going to be the mode. Okay, I see that 5 occurs twice, and I see that 7 occurs twice, and 8 just once. So now we're dealing with 5 and 7. Now, you might think, well, in the median we found the average of the two numbers, but we're not going to do that in this case. The mode is just wondering which numbers occur the most. You aren't finding the average at all. You're just telling me which ones are there the most. So 5 and 7 occur the most. It's a tie between them two. Okay? So you don't need to pick sides. You don't need to pick which one is the mode. You can have 2. And maybe you would have 3 in some cases. I hope this video helped you. I know that this was a lot of new information. So please take the time, reread, rewatch. Please give me a call, send me a message. Let me know if you need help or if you need me to clear anything up. I'm here to help you, okay? We'll talk to you soon.